Good evening. At this time, I'd like to call to order the Planning Commission meeting of October 11th, 2021. For viewers watching at home, commissioners and members of the public are participating via video conference or teleconference. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, justice for all. Will the Secretary please call the roll?
Commissioner Lanson?
Present.
Commissioner Link?
Here.
Commissioner McMahon?
Here.
Commissioner Newman?
Present.
Chair Buss?
Here. All right. Tonight we have with us Planning Division Manager Steve Kearns. Mr. Kearns, are there any written comments, announcements, or continuances at this time?
Good evening, Chair Buss. Thank you. Yes, there was one supplemental packet distributed today to the planning commissioners via email that contained correspondence relating to item 7A on the agenda tonight. And that is it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, now is the time for public comment. At this time, any person may address the commission regarding a city planning matter that is not on this evening's agenda. Should the commission wish to discuss an issue raised by a member of the public, the issue will be referred to staff for scheduling on a future agenda. Anyone who would like to speak under public comments must complete a speaker card and file it with the recording secretary before public comments portion of the agenda is called. The speaker's remarks should be addressed to the commission as a whole and not to an individual commissioner or staff member. Unless otherwise provided by the commission, speakers are limited to 5 minutes. The screen will show you the remaining time you have. I do not believe we have any speakers this evening, so we will move along to the consent calendar. Next, we have the consent calendar with the minutes of September 27th, 2021. Do any of my fellow commissioners have any comments or a motion to approve the minutes? Vice Chair Newman. Go ahead and unmute yourself, sir.
Pardon me. Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Chair. I move we accept the minutes of our September 27th, 2021 meeting.
Perfect. Will the Secretary please prepare us for a vote?
Yes, there is another item on the consent calendar. The 2022 schedule of meetings.
May I amend my motion to include that schedule? Or does that require a separate motion?
I didn't see it on my script.
It could be all
apologize.
together if
We can do
there's
it all
no
together?
comment.
All right. We'll consider that motion amended and go for it.
Chair Buss, I did have one comment.
Oh, please, go ahead, Commissioner Link.
My apologies. Thank you, Chair Buss. I will not be present for the June 28th meeting.
I do not follow, sir. June 28th?
That's correct.
Next year?
That is correct. We plan out vacations very far ahead in the Link family.
Well, if we're going there, there's one in April that I'm on vacation.
I appreciate everybody sharing their vacation schedule with me.
I think we have a motion on the floor.
Commissioner Lanson?
Aye.
Commissioner Link?
Yes.
Commissioner McMahon?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
Aye.
Chair Buss?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very much. All right, let's move on. Will the clerk please open the public hearing?
Item 7A, hearing having been advertised as required by law, is hereby open to consider Agenda Item 7A, tentative tract map TTM 2020-70726 to allow the subdivision of a 6.88 acre commercial lot into 6 commercial lots for an existing shopping center. Located at 701 North Wendy Drive, the applicant is DH Holdings Incorporated, David Hornstein.
Thank you. Presenting on behalf of staff is Associate Planner Jessica Magana. You have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Buss. Before we get into the meeting, I want to introduce Jessica. Jessica is an associate planner with the city. She's been with us since July of last year. Jessica has worked on a number of exciting projects for the city to success in every case, and she comes to us from the city of Brea. And as I mentioned, she worked on several projects. This is her first project before the Planning Commission. So Jessica, take it away.
Thank you, Steve. I am going to share my screen. 1 second. All right. Good evening, Chair and members of the Commission. My name is Jessica Magana. I'm the Associate Planner. The item before you tonight is Tentative Track Map 2020-70726, submitted by DH Holdings. The tentative track map is a request to allow the subdivision of 6.88 acres of commercial lot into 6 commercial lots for an existing shopping center located at 701 North Wendy Drive. A tentative track map is required when creating 5 or more legal lots for ownership purposes. The city has the right to review the creation of legal lots for subdivision purposes as permitted by the Municipal Code and the State Subdivision Map Act. Pursuant to the Municipal Code, the subdivision of 5 or more lots requires Planning Commission approval. As such, this request requires Planning Commission approval with the appropriate conditions as provided. A little background, the subject property was first developed as a shopping center in 1964 under the County of Ventura. In 1978, the site was annexed to the City of Thousand Oaks under the existing commercial plan development zoning designation. This is equivalent to the city's C1 zone, neighborhood shopping center. In 2007, the Planning Commission approved a special use permit and an oak tree permit to renovate the shopping center as it currently looks. The proposal also included the operation of a health club, on-site consumption of alcoholic beverages, outdoor dining, and the removal of few oak trees. Although there is no new development associated with this tentative track map request today, there is a separate development application that is currently under review. In December of 2020, Development Permit Minor Modification 2020-70727 and Special Use Permit 2021-70130 and Oak Tree Permit 2021-70222 were submitted to the city requesting the construction of a new 9,990 square foot building to be utilized as a daycare facility and a new 2,000 square foot drive-through pad building. To accommodate the proposed development, the application also includes parking lot, hardscape, and landscape modifications. The applications require review and approval by the Community Development Director and are not subject to Planning Commission review. These pending entitlements for site modifications are not related, and not contingent upon the tentative track map, therefore are not a part of the scope of this Planning Commission review. The project site is an existing commercial shopping center known as Conejo Gateway and is approximately 6.8 acres in size. The site is improved with commercial buildings, parking, hardscape, and landscaping. The subject site is designated commercial in the city's general plan land use map and zone commercial plan development, which allows for the existing shopping center and its uses. The CPD zone is one of the last remaining county zones in the city, but it is equivalent to the C1 zone, the city's C1 zone, and will be updated accordingly with the general plan update. The proposed subdivision is required to comply with the C1 zone standards, including but not limited to lot area, lot depth, and width. To provide you with some context to the site, here we have an aerial image of the site showing the commercial buildings, the existing parking, landscaping, and hardscape. You can see the 101 freeway is immediately north. And there is existing commercial office buildings directly north across Old Conejo Road and existing commercial uses across Wendy Drive. There are residential uses immediately west and south of the project site. Access to the site will not change and will continue to be provided off of Old Conejo Road and Wendy Drive. Currently, there are 4 access points along Old Conejo Road and 3 access points along Wendy Drive. Here are some images of the site. This one is looking north off of Wendy Drive. You can see the inline tenants to the left and one of the pad buildings on the right of the image. This is another image looking south. This is from Old Conejo Road. And here you can see the 3 pad buildings to the left and then the inline tenants from a different perspective. Here we have the site plan. Again, the request before you tonight is for the tentative tract map to establish 6 legal lots of record. This site plan shows the original parcel boundary in the black dotted lines. Each proposed lot is highlighted in a different color. Lot numbers 2, 3, and 4 all currently contain standalone structures, pad buildings. Lot 5 currently contains an existing building for the inline tenants. Lot 1 and 6 would allow for future development. As part of this project, staff has included conditions of approval to ensure reciprocal access, easements, and maintenance agreements are maintained between each parcel. The project as designed meets the Thousand Oaks Municipal Code development standards that include lot area, lot depth, and lot width. This table shows development standards for minimum lot size, which is 20,000 square feet. This table also shows the proposed lot sizes, and as identified on the column on the right, all lots comply with this requirement. The subject site was noticed to the adjacent property owners within 500 square feet as required by the code. To date, staff has received 1 public correspondence regarding this project. Staff received this morning and included it in the packet as a supplemental item. The comments opposing the project are mainly referring to the proposed development on the site. Again, the item before you is for the tentative tract map solely for the subdivision and creation of 6 legal lots. This proposal does not include any development. There is the development permit that is currently under review by the city, but it is again not included as part of the scope of this project. The project was analyzed for conformance with the California Environmental Quality Act. Staff determined that the proposed project is categorically exempt from the provisions of CEQA. This request involves authorizing, again, the subdivision of 1 lot into 6 legal lots for an existing commercial shopping center. There's no new development proposed, and as such, the proposed subdivision alone will have no effect on the environment. To conclude, again, the project that has been submitted before us meets and is consistent with the general plan, meets the requirement of the applicable commercial development standards pertaining to lot size, dimension of the C1 zoning district. The project will not be detrimental to the public health, safety, or general welfare. It is compatible with the surrounding land uses, and again, has been reviewed in conformance with the provisions of CEQA. The subdivision as proposed and condition has been found to be consistent with all applicable codes, standards, and policies. Based on the analysis and findings contained in this report, staff recommends approval of the project subject to the conditions of approval in the attached resolution. This concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much, Associate Planner Jessica Magana. Are there any questions or comments for staff from commissioners? We'll begin with Commissioner Link. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair Buss. I just had one question with regard to, in essence, the sharing of the assets on the site. I saw that in the resolution, a reciprocal access agreement must be obtained in order to make sure that egress and ingress is shared by all the future tenants. What I didn't see, though, was shared parking. Was that contemplated as part of this development, so that in the future, if there is any development, that parking counts can be based on the parking that is available to the entire site as opposed to just each individual parcel, as that may or may not necessarily meet those requirements per our code?
Great question, Commissioner Link. The agreement will again make sure that all easements, access points to the site, and all shared amenities will be maintained. So any projects moving forward will take into account the entirety of the site.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Link. We'll move on to Vice Chair Newman. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Ms. Magana, for your report. I just have 3 questions. Beginning with the part that's not the project before us tonight, the various improvements on the lot that were approved administratively. I noticed they were construction of new commercial buildings, construction of a drive-through restaurant, and oak tree permitting, oak tree removals. These are all 3 are things that we've heard in the recent past. And I'm wondering what the threshold is where those things would be done administratively, and when are they done before the Planning Commission?
That's a good question, Vice Chair Newman. I'll be happy to respond to it. The Planning Commission's purview for any entitlement to development permit is when there's a waiver involved. So if there's a setback deviation, it must go before the Planning Commission. If it meets all development standards, it's processed administratively. For oak tree work, if a tree that's larger than 24 inches in diameter is being removed, that requires Planning Commission consideration. More than 3 oak or landmark trees also requires Planning Commission. So in those cases, the project as a whole would come before the Commission, but in this case, there's no deviation requested.
Okay, so in all 3 cases, you're saying these are below the thresholds that would trigger a Planning Commission review?
That's correct, yes. Thank you.
Great, thank you for that. And again, I know we're not looking at the building projects, but we are looking at lot lines here. And on the development map, it appears that the drive-through restaurant, which is lot 6, I think, that some of the traffic and maybe some of the entrance areas spill into what would be lot 5. And my question is there any conflict there between the 2 lots?
Another good question. The development can cross over those lines for the ancillary parts, the shared portions of it. The building itself has to be on its own lot, so it won't cross over the property lines. If there is any sort of crossing over, that could be handled through the building permit process. The building division could require a lot tie between the 2 parcels, so the lots can't be sold individually, and has to meet certain building codes when it does cross over property lines.
Okay, but as drawn, we're okay with it as is?
We are.
Okay, great. And then just at the end of the report, there's a reference to C3 zoning. And I just want to be clear, I think we're talking about C1 here. Is that correct?
That is correct. The report initially, and that was taken out apparently, initially had C3 in there because the CPD zone is traditionally equivalent to the C3 zone. In this case, in 2006, the Planning Commission made a determination that this site was equivalent to the C1 zone. So it is C1 standards.
Okay, great. I do have another question asking for staff feedback on the letter that was received today, but I'll come back to that after we've heard from the applicant. Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner McMahon.
Yes, thank you. I have a couple of questions. The first one is, it is called Caneo Gateway. Is this considered a gateway property to the city, or is that just the name of the property?
That is just the name of the shopping center. It's not a gateway.
Okay, and so the development that's under review that we are not looking at today, can that be done as one parcel? If we didn't approve this lot split, can the owner go forward with the development of the drive-through and the possible childcare building?
That's a very good question, Commissioner McMahon. The development could go forward without the new lots being created. It's not contingent on the parcels being established, so it could be developed on the one single parcel.
Okay, and then, okay, I'm gonna hold off on my other questions for right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner McMahon. Commissioner Lanson.
Thank you, Chair Buss. Ms. Magana, thank you for your report. I kind of want to just clarify something that kind of why it's even before us. So again, looking at the code section that you guys had in your presentation, it's the advisory agency that makes the decision as to the lot split. And the only reason it's before us is because it's more than 4 units, correct?
More than 5.
That's correct. More than 4 requires Planning Commission review as the advisory agency to the City Council.
And as part of that process, and again, just to confirm, we're not supposed to look at the underlying use of any of these individual lots going forward, even though it may be in the presentation material. Is that right?
That is correct. There's no Planning Commission trigger in this case for the development aspect.
As Commissioner Newman pointed out, there is a letter from the Zimmerman who cited a lot of concerns with regard to a number of issues, specifically the lot 6 for the driveway or the drive-through, if that actually turns out to be that. Is there a forum by which she'll have an opportunity to address those issues as part of the administrative process?
At this stage, the notice of the public comment period was expired on June 10th, and we did not receive any correspondence during that legal notification period. So at this point, there's no administrative hearing that could be held at this point. But there is appeal right still, and we will send out whatever the decision is on the administrative letter. We can send a copy to the concerned party.
Okay.
And if I may, Mr. Chair Buss, and Mr. Lanson, just to be clear, Mr. Lanson, you summarized the biggest issue is that this is the tentative track map is what's before you. And to be clear, I think Mr. Newman made a comment, the development portion is still being processed. It's not, I don't believe it's been finalized yet. So that is still being considered by staff. And again, like any project, if it was something that through our own code, if there was an administrative hearing on a project and then that was appealed of some kind, it would go to the Planning Commission again. You have some of those once in a while, those come to you. They're not too frequent actually, but just so you know that there's always those processes that people can take with administrative processed applications, okay? But for tonight, again, it's about, do we have the findings to establish a tentative track map is appropriate for this property?
Okay, thank you. Just a few more questions. I noticed that there's 2, I guess, community trash can areas, so to speak, and that usually signals to me it may be a potential need for a association of some sort between the different property owners, but it doesn't look like that's being suggested here, right?
That is not being suggested as part of the approval entitlement.
And do you know, in terms of like the trash can usage or whatever, will that be covered by the easement, or how will the trash can usage be clarified as between the different property owners?
Very good question. Now that will be clarified in the easement.
Okay.
The agreement between the owners.
Okay. And just to confirm, and I walked it today, so I'm pretty sure, but again, I'm not an expert like you, Mr. Kearns. Each of the pads have its own separate utilities so that they actually are differently metered?
I'm not sure, actually. I have to defer to our Public Works Department. Mohammed?
Yeah. Good evening. My name is Mohammed Fatimi. I'm the Division Manager of the Public Works Department. And yes, as far as the utilities goes, Cal-Am specifically provides the water service to the property. and Callan policy is not to enter the property. So whatever their services they would be providing would be from outside perimeter service. As far as the sewer goes, we do require each parcel have its own lateral line that cannot cross any property line. Other dry utilities, I have to refer them to the utility companies, gas company, electrical company, or communication companies. They have their own policies.
So I guess the question, just in terms of more general 35,000 foot ideas, will this subdivision process, if approved, require any, trenches be built or change of utility lines or anything, or is it basically all already in place?
Most of it is in place, but probably there will be some changes and there will be some moving around lines. And MAP Act requires the utilities be provided before the map gets recorded, or they have to provide funding to guarantee the connection of the utilities.
All right. So ultimately, that's up to the individual owners, not necessarily anything the city has to do, right?
We just control the sewer. The rest of it is I have to make sure the utilities are available at the time of recordation of the map.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. All right, I've got a few questions. As a layperson, I'm trying to wrap my head around this one. My first question would be, we're talking about the potential development of Lot 1 and Lot 6. If Lot 1 is developed in any way, shape, or form, it takes up one of the entrances that provides access to Lot 2, as well as most of the drive-through for that Taco Bell. My question is do they have the capacity to make the Taco Bell drive-through no longer exist anymore and impede the ability of whoever owns that property to do anything with it if they're two separate owners? Anyone?
Yep. Thank you, Chair. Good question. The development permit is currently being evaluated. There's a lot of moving parts as part of that proposal. So we're evaluating these access and circulation, as you mentioned, and the parking requirements as well. So it's still under the evaluation process.
So is it wise of us to go ahead and say yes to something when it could functionally make the entire parcel useless?
Well, the lot lines won't affect the development permit. The development may change, but the lot lines are as they're configured now. So that's what's before you this evening. And that won't affect what they're proposing.
It will not affect what they're, so hypothetically, if they sold off Lot 2 in the Taco Bell to somebody, and they sold off Lot 1 to somebody else, it could have an impact, though.
It would have an ownership impact, but from a development perspective, we would evaluate to make sure it meets all the development standards.
I got you. Okay, because, yeah, my other question would be, there's 4 ingresses and egresses here, but we're talking about 6 separate properties, so 2 of the properties won't have their own access points, Lot 4 and 3, from my understanding from reading it. Is that an issue, and is that something that do you guys have an example property that I can kind of use as a frame of reference for how this would work?
Yeah, are you familiar with the Oak Brook Shopping Center?
Very much.
Yeah, that has several ownerships as well in place. I think it's either 6 to 8 owners out there, separate parcels as well. The shopping center is going to function the same as it functions today, just different ownership. So it's access, circulation, everything's going to be in place the way it is now. There'll be minor tweaks based on the development, of course, but there will still be that shared agreement, and access will be provided over each lot.
Okay. And so would setbacks and lot lines be impacted as these lot lines are drawn?
Setbacks are all being achieved based on the C1 zoning requirements. They really don't have side or rear setbacks unless it's adjacent to the residential, and then residential has that 20-foot setback that they would have to meet.
Okay.
But the center line setback from the center of Windy is being met.
Okay, so we're good there. The only reason I ask is because I remember that the Starbucks we approved across from the high school on Moore Park Road, the issue is that you physically couldn't build anything on it, and that lot size was roughly 20,000 square feet. And I know a couple of those approach that size on this one, so just want to make sure that they could still build something if we subdivide this. So then the only other question I've got is the same parking question. Would they be able to use the parking individually, or is there going to be a shared parking requirement? And would that be an undue burden for any of the individual owners relative to other owners if somebody, say, built their building first?
And that's a very good question as well. We've run into this situation quite a bit when we have multiple property owners and lots. The parking would be shared throughout, and the ownership would have to agree to that shared parking arrangement because the parking right now is being supplied for the entire development. So when we evaluated the project initially, or the county did, it was park based on being one parcel with multiple retail uses and meet the parking demand based on the code provisions at that time. So we would have to make sure that the shared parking arrangement is still in place.
I got you. So I'm just curious because if these lots are subdivided and turned into saleable lots, will a certain number of parking spaces allocated to them relative to the general be part of that property right, or how does that work?
It would be, the parking would be shared as a whole. The only thing that would change in that case would be the ownership change, and then they would have to accept the agreement.
But would it be divided based upon square footage or number of units, or how does that work?
It's based on square footage, square
Okay.
footage of the actual use.
Okay, got it. All right, I think that is my only questions for now. So we can move along. Where are we at here?
Chair Bus?
Yes, sir.
My apologies. Just
Oh,
one
sorry.
follow-up
Please,
question.
Commissioner Link, go ahead.
You piqued my interest with the discussion regarding lot 1 and 2. So I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the clarification you were looking for is whether lot 1 could in effect condemn the access that Taco Bell currently has as a result of the portion of their drive-through now being in lot 1. And my understanding of that is no. My follow-up would be, how does one handle maintenance of the parking lot? I mean, again, it's probably going to be some kind of HOA established for the development to maintain the joint facilities. But if you've got a fairly heavily used driveway that is on somebody else, technically somebody else's lot and owned by somebody else, how is that relationship handled?
Another very good question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Steve. I
Go
can
ahead,
probably, yeah. There are many different ways to skin this cat. It doesn't have to be an easement or HOA or CC&Rs. There are many different ways. One of them could be a reciprocal agreement between all the property owners that would take care of the maintenance, ownership, and all the other facilities in there. As part of the map review, we would be looking into something like that. We would be looking to see what instrument would be recorded to ensure maintenance of all the facilities that are being shared by the property owners are being taken care of. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for following up, Commissioner.
And Commissioner Link, I just wanted to add to Mo's explanation on the easement and reciprocal access for driveways and parking. Staff did work extensively to execute that condition of approval. That recorded document would have to be provided before the map is actually recorded through the county. So staff will make sure that when they draft this document indicating the mechanism for reciprocal driveway access and parking and maintenance, that it would be recorded ahead of the map being finalized.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Contreras.
All right, anyone else have any questions before I move along? All right, looks good. So, thank you. Now we will ask the applicant and the applicant's representatives to speak. You will have 15 minutes. Please state your name and city of residence for the record. I believe we are going to have with us David Hornstein, Scott Yules, and Jessica Steiner. You have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners. I wrote a little something here. I'm going to try to read it. First of all, happy Columbus Day to all planning commissioners, staff who are present. My name is David Hornstein. I'm the manager and part owner of Caneo Gateway. So thank you for hearing our case on the country's Day of Discovery. So just a brief history and background on us. We've been in the retail industry for a combined 60 years, the partnership has. I've been in retail shopping center development, leasing, entitlement, and management for roughly 25 years, mainly in Southern California. and we conduct almost everything in-house. Fun facts, just 2 fun facts about me and community service. I'm on the chair board of one of my children's school in Agoura Hills, known as Ilan Ramon. And I actually assist in planning, so I know how you guys feel, for the city of Agoura as a planning commissioner myself as of this January, past January. And have lived in California, Southern California all my life. Our partnership purchased Gateway Plaza on July 26th of 2019, right before the initial issues with COVID. Great timing. And we did buy the center. And our goal was, our plans prior to COVID was to add a school for children on the land next to O'Reilly's, add a unique restaurant where Billy D's was, which we just did actually, the waffle experience, and add a safe and strong national drive-through tenant, enhance the existing food court area trellis by Jersey Mike's, create some additional patio areas for existing restaurants, which are obviously needed, and add more ambiance to a very slow, you know, at the time at least, it was a slow shopping center. Those are the main reasons we bought the center from Toy. We had to survive COVID and work with our existing tenants. So you can imagine how difficult it's been over the past year and a half, but we did it. And in the meantime, we're required for financial reasons to partialize our center, not just for sale reasons, but really for financial reasons for the partnership and also our lending institutions for the loan, for the construction loan. Lending has not been easy, as you can imagine, in retail and to come by for construction loans. But nonetheless, we've done that. Now, we've been doing this for a while. I've probably done about 20 of these for a different company that I worked with and for ourselves and the partners. And we've parcelized and we've had no issues with what we put together. Most specifically was for the city of Wildomar. We did it 4 times on one street. And we have an REA in place. We assign the manager. We give the percentages. We make sure we hadn't sold it, but if we had sold it, we have everything in place where there's one control manager making sure that all the utilities and all of the trash, everything stands on its own and everyone uses the parking all the time. And it's worked out great. So we have examples of that. Let me see what else I wrote here. Hold on, I'm sorry. We also decided to use an engineer that has worked with the city of Thousand Oaks in the past called Delane. And Scott Yules will give a brief commentary after I'm done, as he's been successful with the city of Thousand Oaks and the outlining areas that are part of your jurisdiction. I appreciate your time tonight. I know you could be watching the Dodgers, and I hope we can answer any questions. I'm here. My office is 5 exits from the shopping center itself. We're in the community, my wife and I and 2 kids. We're very hands-on. With the exception of some leasing that we do with outside, we do everything else in-house and have been for years. So with that, Scott, if you'd like to perhaps add, commissioners, I appreciate your time.
Thank you, David. I would just like to follow up on a couple of the questions that came up. And Commissioner Contreras, I think, answered this, but I just wanted to note that in terms of recording of the easements, all of those easements and agreements and maintenance would all be done and conditioned prior to recording of the final map. And that would be under one owner. And all of those easements would then be conveyed with the land in the event that any of those parcels were ever sold. So in terms of access to driveways, parking, trash enclosures, drive-throughs, all of that stuff will all be defined at the time of map recording and then be conveyed with the property. And as David mentioned, we worked on a couple of projects, commercial projects similar to this, where we had multiple lots on one parcel with shared parking and shared access and driveways. And we've worked through those agreements in the past with the city and city staff, specifically with Mohammed. So if you have any other questions or follow-ups related to the utilities or easements, I'm happy to answer those questions.
And that's your presentation?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you. All right, then I will hand it over to my commissioners. Are there any questions of the applicant? Commissioner Lanson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair Buss. Just in regard to that last comment, so the grantor and the grantee of the easement is going to be the exact same party?
It's a reciprocal access easement, so it's not specifically granted from one entity to the other. It's a reciprocal access easement over legal lots that would then travel with the property if any of them are sold.
I'm just trying to understand from a procedural standpoint, does that create any merger problem where you're essentially granting yourself an easement? And again, I'm just trying to understand the procedure by which that's going to run with the land. Again, I don't know if this is a question for you or staff, but is it essentially, it is an easement agreement or is it some other kind of deed restriction?
If I may, Commissioner, as you mentioned, you're true to the fact that owner cannot give easements to itself. So we have to use a different instrument. As I mentioned, there are many different instruments could be used here. There could be a covenant recorded against a property to reserve the rights of access or any other rights of easement to another property, and would be recorded and it would be transferred with the property. Also, it could be a reciprocal agreement or mutual agreement between different property owners. It wouldn't be necessarily an easement.
Well, and that's what I thought, is that whenever anybody buys, the easement would then be entered with that person. But if we're requiring this to be as part of the track map process, I don't know if we can do an easement. It would have to be some, I think, but again, I'm just
Correct.
kind of wondering here, it has to be maybe a deed restriction or a covenant or something else besides an easement, it sounds like.
Absolutely correct, yes.
Okay.
It has to
All
be
right.
a different instrument. It cannot be easement from existing owner to existing owner. That would
And
be
this
the
is
same.
why I made my comment before, that normally I
course.
see this as part of an association where there's a CC&Rs that actually then would
Right.
create that restriction.
That's possible, but a mutual agreement or a reciprocal agreement would do the same.
Okay. And then, Mr. Hornstein, thank you for going through the process, and I appreciate you being a commissioner for a nearby city. That's kind of nice.
I get it.
The question, and again, this is more just for my edification. You indicated that it's difficult to get construction loans on the entirety of the property, and it sounds
Yeah.
like it's easier for you to then get it per individual property. Is that true?
Yeah, it's mainly because of how they appraise it. They appraise it with higher value, and then they look at it differently. Not if you're going to sell it or not, but they look at each one individually, so they give it more value, and therefore you're able to, get a construction loan with that in place. All the lenders are looking for what's going to happen if you can't afford to pay us rent, or mortgage. And what happens if there's another COVID scare and your tenants don't pay you? And if, God forbid, something like that should happen, they want to know that there are options on the table to help me get out of my mess, basically. That's
So, and again, just to follow up on the concept, and again, this is something that obviously is going forward, but are you looking to keep all six? Are you
oh
selling
yeah,
all six?
no, our
or-
intention is to keep all six. We don't, I'm not going to say in 10 or 20 years that we wouldn't sell, but that's not our intention. We usually hold our properties, and, we've also worked with, like I said, other cities, and we've created REAs that got the cities comfortable. In particular, like I said, the city of Marietta and Wildomar out there. We put it together. We have an example because we've used it, and it's gotten people really comfortable with it. You have one group, and everything gets recorded against the property, so no one can sell a property without adhering to the entire REA. And that's it. They have to live with it. So they have to live with it. There's one group that, manages everything. And again, per building or per land, we bill each owner. In our case, we don't have to worry about that because it's all us. But if there was, everyone gets billed, and one group actually handles the management of everything. And everyone has to adhere to the 5 egresses. There's 5 of them. And everyone has to adhere to the parking, and everyone has to adhere to rules and regulations. It's all in there. And it does run with the land. So at first it won't matter because it's all us. But if some point in the future there was a sale, it runs with whoever it was that were to purchase. But that's not our intention at all.
Okay. And then you heard my question with regard to each property having its own separate metering and utilities.
Yeah,
You're-
I can answer. I mean, I can actually answer that. Most of the properties, and Scott confirmed that this is accurate, they all have their own electrical, their own water, and they're all tying into the same sewer. Interestingly enough, as it relates to the sewer and the water, that all goes to us as one bill, and then we bill each parcel or each building individually. So each tenant. So for example, what we would do is, what we have is we manage our properties. And so we put together whatever the costs are, and then we go to each tenant based on their square footage, and they pay their pro rata share for water fees, for taxes for that matter. And in this case, I think taxes will, each one will go to each building. But for electrical, for example, electrical, they have their own electrical, but not for the shopping center. So for the shopping center electrical and security, which we have, so we will bill it pro rata.
Okay. Thank you. That's all the questions I have.
You bet.
Thank you, Commissioner Lanson. Vice Chair Newman, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Hornstein, earlier staff said that it would be possible for development to proceed without the division. And I want to ask you the inverse question, based on what you said about lenders' preferences these days. In your judgment, would it be possible for lending to proceed without division?
Maybe there's lenders that might do that. We are not in a position. We require this to move forward with our construction development. I'm sorry that we're in that position, but I guess it could be worse.
Okay, so I mean, that sounds to me like you're saying, at least for the lenders you've dealt with thus far, that they're saying no, you need to subdivide it. That they're not saying they'd green light a single. The current.
What I'm sharing with you is based on us, because we're not developing all of this for cash. We need a construction loan, and construction lenders today for retail are they're just not as much as they used to be in 2019. And but that's not the only reason too. It's smart to do this in general. Every building can be taxed, and we do want the options for if we needed to sell one of the buildings, we could. So it's not just for that, but it's mainly for that because we don't have an intention to sell.
All right, thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, actually, I'm sorry. I do have just one more thing.
Okay.
I don't know if you've had an opportunity to see the letter that came in today. Have you had a chance to see that?
Yeah, I saw it late.
I'm going to ask staff to comment on it, but if you have any comments, I'd like to give you an opportunity to respond as well.
Yeah, I mean, what I actually planned on doing after this. So just as a side note, we'd gone through transportation and looked at all of those issues. We've done this for 10 months. We actually went through it. But in addition to that, I actually went to a lot of the neighbors to make sure that I proactively spoke to anyone that might have a concern, especially the adjacent neighbors that are right next to the where the drive-through is proposed. And thank goodness, none of them spoke. I met with a bunch of them, and they were all very good with it. They said there was a big wall that was in place already, and we told them we were going to take into consideration all of what was taken into consideration at the Starbucks and all of the issues with noise, etc., and that we would make sure we would address all of those concerns, if any. We notified everyone. No one came to speak about it. Ironically, there were a couple, Jessica, I think, they came to speak on the learning experience, but not the drive-through. And then this all of a sudden came this morning. I haven't had a chance to speak to Julie, but after we get further along with planning, I plan to do that.
All right. Thanks for that. And thank you, Mr. Chair.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Vice Chair Newman. Does anybody else have any questions? I don't see anybody else. I just had one question perhaps you can answer for me. The lot lines that are drawn here for the 6 lots, were those drawn by you or by mutual agreement with the city, or how did we come up with these shapes? Just out of curiosity.
Scott? You're on mute.
Thanks, David. Yeah, so we proposed the lot lines and presented them to the city for review. And mainly it had to do with getting the lot in conformance with really what they would need from a parking standpoint. I know it will be shared parking, but there's also agreements that are in place for maintenance. And that helps sort of lead those agreements in terms of maintenance and use of the area, and to have the lots in the shape that they are and meeting all of the other city codes in terms of front setbacks, et cetera. So that's, we developed the lots based on that, presented to the city and reviewed it with them to make sure that we were in conformance from a each individual lot standpoint.
All right, I will assume that is. I'll follow up with staff about that as well, because it still bugs me that drive-through is cut off like that. It just seems difficult for my brain to process that was the ideal way to draw those lines. But makes sense what you're saying, though. Thank you. All right, let's move along to public comments. I believe we have 2 public speakers this evening. Each speaker will have 5 minutes. And our speakers, I believe, this evening are Wendy Zimmerman and Michael Weingarten. We will begin with Wendy Zimmerman. Please state your name and your city of residence for the record. Thank you.
Okay, I think I've got
We can hear you, Wendy. Go ahead and speak.
myself unmuted. Hold on a second. I'm sharing my screen. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. I am the author of the lengthy letter that you received today. I want to let you know that this lot division has been not clearly illustrated to the people of the community of Casa Conejo and surrounding neighborhoods. I am going to say that the outreaches that Mr. Horenstein claims he has made has been de minimis at most. I am a member of the Casa Conejo Municipal Advisory Council, and any hot button issues tend to come to my attention through Supervisor Parks and our community public meeting process. And it has not been on our agenda, and you have not asked to speak to us as a council and a community. So we have had that avenue available to you, Mr. Horenstein, but you have not taken advantage of that. And anybody that you've talked to has to have been in a pretty limited radius. I also checked nextdoor.com before I sent the letter, and there is really no chatter going on in Nextdoor, and anything that people really understand what's happening. If they knew that there was going to be a potential drive-through in their backyards with the noise, the traffic, the congestion, the pollution, etc., it would be on nextdoor.com, and there would be a lot of unhappy comments about it, I assure you. I know the folks in this community pretty well. So I want to say that contrary to your claim, we really have not had sufficient access, but I would invite Mr. Horenstein to come to one of our Casa Conejo MAC meetings, and we can arrange to get him on our agenda, and he can have public comment for that in an appropriate time. We meet the 3rd Wednesday of every other month. We met in September, so we don't meet until November. Next, my primary concern is with putting a drive-through immediately next to homes on Wendy Drive. And drive-throughs, of course, have a different mentality associated with them. They have a much greater noise. They have a much higher traffic volume. And that I would not want to live immediately next to a drive-through. I live just a few blocks from the shopping center. I frequently walk over there. I've seen all the different reiterations in that shopping center for over 20 years as a nearby resident of it. The Taco Bell works where it is because it's over by the mobile station. It's situated across the street and surrounded by businesses, not homes. I wouldn't want loudspeakers and cars and radios blaring and all the noise of a drive-through if I was one of the homeowners right along Verna and along Wendy Drive, right next to that shopping center. I sent you lots of pictures that I took myself so that people on the council, the commission, could see better what we are talking about, because the illustrations provided in the staff plans really don't show you where it is in relationship to Bella Drive. I walked from the corner of Bella and Wendy down to where the shopping center starts. It took me less than 60 strides to get there. So it's very, very close. Traffic is coming and going in all directions. There are no traffic signals. There are no crosswalks. All we have is what you might call a suicide lane for all the various turns coming and going onto Bella. We have a left turn lane for Bella, and you have suicide lanes in the middle of Wendy Drive for the turns in and out of the shopping center and coming back out and on. It's a zoo as it is. Wendy Drive narrows to one lane in each direction as that shopping center comes to an end. In your illustrations, you can see the arrows that show the merge arrows. You can see them. And people routinely use that right-hand lane as a passing lane. They are too impatient to wait in the straight lane to go up Wendy Drive and on to wherever. And then they go from the right-hand lane and make sudden left veers to go into the McDonald's and the Magoo's shopping center. And it's a zoo as it is. Adding significantly more traffic in that corner would be a nightmare for us. It would be detrimental. Further, at the corner of Wendy and Bella, we have an ambulance station. That ambulance has to be able to get out. I have often tried to get out from my community from Bella onto Wendy. I cannot go any place without using Wendy Drive. I am landlocked. So are all the other people in the quadrant of the tract where I live. If I want to go up and out of my way, I can finagle my way up to Alice and go on to Wendy from Alice. But Bella and Alice are my only two choices onto Wendy Drive, and that's how I have to get in and out of my home. So when you add a whole bunch of traffic to that, and I can often wait for 30 cars just for me to come through, just so I can make a right turn to go down Wendy to go wherever I'm headed, whether it's the freeway or one of the other shopping centers or any place else. I can easily wait 30 cars worth. I can easily wait a long time to make a left turn because there are 4 and 5 cars making left turns from Wendy onto Bella.
Mrs.
And
Zimmerman?
I have to wait for all of them clear and dodge my way in. It does not work. We need a traffic study. We need proper planning, and you have the chance to stop the mess now.
Thank you, Mrs. Zimmerman. All right, now we'll be moving along to Michael Weingarten. You have 5 minutes. Please do state your city residence for the record.
Hey, folks. I got to be honest with you. I have nothing to say. You had to say that you want. You had to. One of the choices was I would like to make a public comment. There was no choice of I would like to just listen. So, I have nothing.
Thank you very much, sir. We'll move along then. All right, let's get back to staff for follow-up comments.
Chair, this is Carlos. I just want to first thank the public for providing their comment and a supplemental package that was provided to you tonight. I just want to provide a couple of comments on what was mentioned. As far as the comments provided by Ms. Zimmerman, there are 2 parts to the comments provided. One part is for the actual subdivision, and then the second part is for the actual development permit minor modification. I'll begin with the actual subdivision comments. Staff looks at the 6-lot subdivision, and we look for conformance with the development standards under the C1 zone. Meaning, do the 6 lots meet the standard criteria for lot size, lot area, lot depth, lot width, and lot frontage and access? As we mentioned earlier tonight, staff did implement various conditions of approval demonstrating compliance with those development standards, and staff has also worked accordingly with our Department of Public Works to make sure that the site is provided, the entire shopping center is provided the reciprocal access, maintenance, and parking agreements, and to be recorded prior to the map being recorded itself. So again, that's what we, those are my comments regarding the actual lot subdivision. Now, regarding the actual development permit minor modification and Oak Tree permit for the separate application, staff does provide various means of notification for the proposed project. For that development permit minor modification, staff provides a mailer to surrounding property owners within 500 feet of the subject property. And staff also requires that the applicant do post a actual notice of application sign on the project frontage along Wendy and Old Conejo. Staff has required that the applicant comply with this sign posting requirement, and it has been executed. And as planning manager Steve Kearns mentioned, the expiration date for that notice of application notification for comment and review expired on June 10th. That being said, if Ms. Zimmerman still wants to be included as an interested party for the proposed development permit minor modification, staff will add her to that list. So when staff continues the conformance review on that proposed development permit, we will notify Ms. Zimmerman of the director's approval of the project, and that way they will have the opportunity to submit for an appeal of that decision by the director and have the project be heard in front of the planning commission. And we will take every precaution to make sure that Ms. Zimmerman is notified of the public hearing notice and also posting the hearing sign on the subject property should it lead to that appeal hearing. And then I just wanted to really briefly mention, staff does a very detailed conformance review of the development permit minor modification. We route project plans to the various departments and agencies in the city, but Department of Public Works, Police, and Fire. So as we do the conformance review of that project, we look at many parameters, including impacts to adjacent surrounding residential properties. In this case, there was a lot of comment regarding the proposed drive-through and its impacts on the adjacent residential properties. Staff does incorporate not only design measures to reduce such impacts to surrounding residential properties, but we also incorporate appropriate conditions of approval. Such design measures would be to increase setbacks from that southern property line near residential properties, reducing the height of light fixtures, siting the speaker boxes in a way that would reduce any noise impacts on the surrounding properties. Our Department of Public Works Traffic Division also looked at the stacking and queuing as designed by the applicant. And there was also mention, and I want to end it with, there was mention of siting the drive-through on the northern portion of the property. When staff does not design the proposed project for the applicant looked at various design alternatives to place the proposed drive-through on the subject property. What staff looks at is conformance with our city standards, codes, and policies, and based on the current design of that drive-through facility and where it's sited today, it would meet the development standards and requirements of the C1 zone and the CPD zone. So that's staff's comment and feedback on the comments that are provided by Ms. Zimmerman tonight.
I also wanted to add that Supervisor Park's office did reach out to us and was provided the project description for both the development project and also for the tentative track map. And they stated that they were going to report back to their MAC meeting.
Copy that. All right, Commissioner McMahon, I believe you have a question.
Yes, thank you. I just want to be absolutely clear. The houses right adjacent to the proposed drive-through lot 6, they were notified.
That is correct.
And none of them have responded to that notification in any way?
Staff has not received any notification or request for project details from those surrounding residential properties. Again, the only correspondence that staff has received is from the surrounding property owner, Wendy Zimmerman, on the impacts of the project, not only for the subdivision, but also for the actual development permit minor modification.
Okay, last question, and I don't know if it's relevant or not, but when you send out those notifications, are they sent to the owner of record, the who pays the taxes, or are they sent to the occupant?
Sent to the ownership on the latest tax roll.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner McMahon. Do any other of my fellow commissioners have a follow-up question for staff at this point? I'm going to go with no, and I am going to give the applicant the opportunity for any rebuttal comments. You have 5 minutes, Mr. Hornstein, Mr. Yules.
I'll try not to take 5 minutes. I appreciate you listening to this and voting on just the land use component for parcelization. And we did reach out. Maybe we didn't reach out to Wendy, and so shame on me. But it sounded like maybe planning did. But we'll address that over the next few weeks and share all of our findings with the queuing. And I mean, we spent a lot of time on that. As far as this is concerned, it's obviously just the parcelization. So I appreciate it. I'm available for any comments I have. We're transparent. We're here. So please feel free. We also, one thing I wanted to add was we're also planning to put a farmer's market here in the back of all the shops at some point, the one that they have in Westlake. And that'll come up probably soon. They're going to apply separately, but I think that would be really great for the community. And that was something else that we wanted to do for the center and the community. Obviously, we changed some of the parking and the striping and some of the trees, and we want to do a good job for everyone. We're not going to get everyone happy with us, but we hope to do the best we can and create something different here. The center really needed something, and we are hearing that, and the, like I said, the residents that are directly affected, not ones that are maybe 2 or 3 or 4, I don't know, half a mile away, have, thank goodness, had no issues, and they're very happy that they were spoken to. And we're grateful for that, and we're grateful for your time. And I don't need to take any more time. I hope to thank you very much. That's what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ornstein. I'm going to go back to my fellow commissioners one more time. Any questions for the applicant, for staff? All right, I've got...
Actually, Chair Buss, I just had one comment.
Oh.
Well, Mr. Hornstein mentioned it, and just off the cuff, and because it's me, I did notice that your site, you're using red pavement markings. I should, this is sort of a recommendation / admonishment. Even though it is private property, you are subject to the requirements of the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, and those are supposed to be white. So just so you know.
Okay, thank you.
That way, if somebody gets into a minor fender bender, they don't send you a claim or something because they couldn't see the stop legend.
No problem. Okay, we'll restripe it. Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Link.
And Chair Buss, if I may.
Yes, please.
Just before you close the hearing, I want to be clear again for all of you that what's before you tonight is a tentative track map. I know I don't want to repeat myself too much, but hearing staff again and hearing the public comments and some of the questions, it is imperative that you understand that tonight before you is not any of the development aspect of this parcel, but the tentative track map separating this property into 6 legal lots. Thank you.
Copy that. I actually do have one final question because it keeps coming up, and it actually kind of dovetails with what you just said, Mr. Aher. So my understanding is that a drive-through development has been approved for this property already, or is pending approval, or not?
It's there's a pending approval. Jessica Magana mentioned in her slide the development permit, minor modification, special use permit, and oak tree permit that's being currently reviewed for conformance and eventual approval if it complies.
Okay, so that's pending approval, and that's a whole separate animal that's going to be dealt with.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
No, let me finish this real quick. Then I just wanted to follow up with Mr. Hornstein real quick, just so I understand this in my head. You were also very clear that you can't make that drive-through happen unless this subdivision happens, correct? That's how the financing will work at the best for you?
I can't make, it's not just the drive-through, it's the whole
thing.
component.
Okay, so this is for you, for financing, and everything that you just choose to do on the property is separate for us at this point. We're just trying to help you as the owner achieve financing through this subdivision.
Lining up, yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure I was on the same page as everybody else here, because
Yes.
we've been talking about a few different issues. All right, I will allow Vice Chair Newman, please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to follow up on your question of staff and ask, is there an order of operations issue here? We just heard that the development approval, there is no development approval as yet. It's under consideration. And the question before us tonight is a tentative tract map question only. And my question is does one have to come before the other, or are those two things completely independent?
Those two projects are completely independent. They're not contingent on either one of them happening. So the map can be recorded without the development permit, and development permit can be reviewed without the map being recorded. So they're not dependent on each other.
Very good. Thank you.
All right, and with that, we will go ahead and close the public hearing. And I will open up the floor for a motion and or some discussion. Does anybody like to lead off here? Yes, Commissioner Lanson, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Buss. I think in looking at this process, especially one of the issues with regard to the use of the property, we're probably dealing with a little bit too much transparency, to be honest with you, in terms of the information that was provided to us as to the actual intended use by virtue of some other applications that haven't been approved. And again, there's a different process by which those applications are being considered. So my own personal feeling is for us to start getting into that and making decisions that, in fact, by the way, even commenting on those underlying issues may create issues because, again, it's a separate process. Again, we were given information about it, which again is nice for the public to be able to see kind of where things are going. But again, at the end of the day, my personal feeling is we can't look as to what the actual potential uses of those tenants or those different properties are, because as we say, it's hypothetical. Something might fall through, the lender may say no, it may be a lot of different things. So right now, for us to sit there and hypothetically look at this issue from the track map standpoint, applying what Ms. Zimmerman and others may be concerned about, I understand that, but at the same point, I feel that we're going above and beyond our authority, and again, making kind of, decisions and ideas of things that, again, is part of a separate process. I heard Mr. Contreras say that he'll include Ms. Zimmerman as part of the further discussion, which is great. Ms. Zimmerman, please do voice your opinion and get that process involved. As it stands now, I believe that was the only other communication we saw, even notwithstanding, that letters were sent to the local residents in the area. So again, my 2 cents is we can't decide, even comment on by virtue of what those uses are. And all we look back to is exactly what we're asked to do, which again is as an advisory agency under the applicable Thousand Oaks Municipal Code section, which again, the only reason it's even before us is because it's more than 4 units in terms of how it's being split up. In looking at the process, I'm satisfied in terms of how they've done the process, that it will be done effectively. I'm very happy they want to come and invest in the city and make that lot. I pass by this, I go to work every day along Newbury Road. So I like the fact of seeing that there's something going to go in that pad that's been sitting there empty for a long time. I appreciate what they're trying to do. I understand the process. I understand the difficulties. So I'm going to go ahead and be in favor of it. And I'm going to go ahead and make the motion, which is to approve. Got to get the terminology. Adopt resolution TTM 2020-7076 based on the rulings, based on the findings and subject to conditions contained in the resolution.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Lanson. Would any other commissioner like to speak before I call a vote here? Commissioner Link, please. Commissioner Link, please.
I would just, sorry about that. I would just like to echo Commissioner Lanson. I think in this case, we might have gotten TMI. We're probably skirting the agendized item sort of issue here where it was not under our purview and probably should not have been under discussion because it has no legal bearing on the decision we have to make tonight. But I am in favor of moving forward with approving the tentative track map.
Thank you, Commissioner. Vice Chair Newman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll concur with the previous comments. I too support the project. I do want to say to Ms. Zimmerman, if our roles were reversed, if I were a neighbor and I am a former tenant in that area, and I know the area quite well, and you were sitting here, I would probably be writing a letter similar to the one you wrote, perhaps not quite as eloquent, but raising some of those same concerns. But I do want to concur with the point Commissioner Lanson and Mr. Heher made, which is that the developments themselves are not the question before us tonight. The only question before us is whether to divide up this one current commercial lot into 6 commercial lots, and that's it. There are certainly other issues when it comes to development, and I hope that you will continue to weigh in on those. I'm not a traffic expert in the way Commissioner Link is, but my sense just driving around there is that ingress and egress onto Wendy and also onto Old Conejo can be pretty tricky. And that is a concern if we're bringing in new business. But at the same time, we've heard tonight testimony that the viability of this center commercially would be improved if we were to divide the parcels. And on that narrow question, I support the motion on the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Newman. Commissioner McMahon, did you wish to speak?
I do agree with most of what's been said before. I will support the motion. However, there's never too much information. We should know what's going on. And this planning commission hearing is as a vehicle for the public to hear what is going on. And, but other than that, I do agree with my fellow commissioners.
I will concur with Commissioner McMahon. I appreciate the fact that that we got a good idea of what they're planning on doing in the shopping center. I am actually excited to hear that they have plans for the shopping center and that they're going to be investing in it. I was a frequent user of the Fresh and Easy supermarket that was there a few years back, and I am well aware that there are traffic issues on Wendy Drive and Old Conejo Road. A lot of those are unfortunately not the domain of the property owner there, though. That's things that the city itself needs to reckon with. So with that, I would like to go ahead and ask that the secretary prepare us for a vote.
Commissioner Lanson?
Aye.
Commissioner Link?
Yes.
Commissioner McMahon?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
Aye.
Chair Buss?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right. Any aggrieved party who wishes to appeal the Planning Commission's decision may do so by filing an appeal with Community Development Department within 10 days. All right. And following up, I believe that we do not have any department reports tonight.
No department reports this evening.
You got it. Then now is the time for commission comments and any AB 1234 reports. Are there any comments from my fellow commissioners? And with that, I see silence. So, Mr. Kearns, are there any follow-up items, announcements, or upcoming issues?
Yes, thank you, Chair Buss and members of the commission. I've got a few updates for you. The general plan update. This general plan team submitted the draft housing element to the State Housing and Community Development Department last week, so we'll be awaiting comments from them. They're currently working on the policy framework for the general plan, and they are targeting the end of the year for another GPAC meeting. So keep that on your radars. It's moving along as well as it can. The upcoming PC items, on October 25th, we have a couple of items. The Daylight, aka Timber School site, will be coming before the Planning Commission for recommendation to City Council. That's the 120-room hotel approximately and 218 apartments. Also, the objective standards will be before the Planning Commission that evening as well. On November 8th, we're looking to have the Lakes development come before the Planning Commission for recommendation to City Council. That is the contemplated 165-unit apartment building. The draft MND has been published. It's out for public review, and the comment period is ending on October 28th. So we look forward to getting those comments and weaving those into the final document. There are 2 items on City Council for tomorrow night. There's the legislative updates and the Community Development Department work program, and initiation of an MCA, Municipal Code Amendment, to allow for religious facilities within our single-family estate zoning. And that is all the updates I have for you this evening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kearns.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a quick question?
Yes, you may.
Mr. Kearns, when do you think we might be going back for in-person meetings?
We're looking, it could be as soon as next month.
Thank you.
Commissioner McMahon, did you have a question as well?
No, no.
All right. Then with that, I will thank all of you for watching this evening. And And we are adjourned till the next meeting, October 25th, 2021 at 6 p.m. Thank you.